Hello, this is Gary at Bushcraft. Thank you for watching our video. So last week I did a video that showed how to use a tinder bundle to light a fire, and in that I mentioned the V-lay, but I didn't really go into any detail as to what the V-lay actually was, and I've had a couple of people ask, so I thought this week what I would do is just show you the V-lay. So a lay is just a way of setting your fire up, a way of constructing your fire. So the V-lay is one that uses a V. Now when it comes to lighting a fire, we've got two kind of broad approaches. So we can either light our tinder and then pile all our fuel on top of it to build the fire around it, or we could build our fire first, so our kind of teepee scout type fire, light our tinder and then shove it in. So pretty much everything else is a variation of one of those two, except the V-lay, which is a kind of a combination of both of them. So I'm going to kind of crouch down in a minute and then you'll be able to see what's going on. First things first, of course, I want to make sure that I'm lighting my fire on bare ground, so just a case of scraping back all of the leaf litter, and of course this is to allow me to adhere to our leave no trace principle, so get it back to bare ground when the fire's finished and thoroughly extinguished, then I can just put this leaf litter back on top. So for any particular method of lighting a fire, in fact, I would always put some sticks down on the ground first. So something like that. So I'm making a kind of raft of sticks here. The purpose of this is to protect our fledgling fire from any moisture that might be in the ground, and so everything is pretty wet at the moment. And so we want to just give our fire the absolute best chance we possibly can to be successful. And so yeah, one of the things we could certainly do there, just get these sticks down on the ground. What I've done here though is line them up with the direction of the wind. So what I'm wanting is for the wind to kind of blow underneath, and we're going to get a little bit of oxygen into the fire from underneath. Now it's not a lot, it's just, but it is a small advantage that this has given us, and of course all of those small advantages build up and allow us to get our fire lit. So bed of sticks on the floor in line with the wind. So this part is relatively straightforward. What I'm going to do next, so the actual V part of our V-lay, I'm just going to put some sticks down like so in a V shape. So this here, it's more or less a right angle, so about 90 degrees, something like that. I'm just going to build this up a little further, a little more, a little higher. Now when I'm demonstrating this on courses, and I'm showing this to our students, there is quite often an expectation that the V is acting as a windbreaker, so that the wind would be going kind of from me towards the camera. That's not the case. This is set up so the wind is blowing into this V. So if you kind of think of it as being a bit like an arrow, so this is the head of the arrow, the wind is traveling in the same direction as our arrow is pointing, or our arrow is pointing in the same direction the wind's flowing. Why this is important is because what we're doing now is influencing the amount of oxygen that's getting into our tinder. So if you remember back to your school days, a bit of science, our fire triangle, or 3 elements of fire, fuel, heat, oxygen. So what we're doing here is influencing the amount of oxygen that's got to get to our fire. So it's basically acting as a funnel. So our tinder is going to sit here in the kind of the apex of this triangle, this V shape, and then funnel the oxygen down into it. Apart from those three elements of fire, which is very much the case in a scientific sense, in a practical sense, or when we're actually out lighting fires, fires like to burn upwards. So the tinder is going to sit in here, we'll ignite that, and then what I would do is get two nice big fat bundles of matchstick thin twigs, and then they're just going to sit straight on top. So the fire or tinder, that's a light down here, and then our twigs are on top of it. So our first stage of kindling, that's sat directly on top. The flame is going to go upwards and ignite those little twigs. So in this kind of environment where we are now, in a native broadleaf woodland, lots of birch around, so I would just go and try to find some of those really thin purple twigs. If I was in a coniferous woodland, well, I would just look for those really thin twigs that are often growing lower down on the trees. So I said at the beginning that we've got two basic ways to light a fire. One is we light our tinder, shove it in the fire. The other is we light our tinder and build the fire on top of it. Well, this is kind of a bit of both going on here. So we've got part of our fire constructed, the V, and then our tinder is going to go in there, and then we're just going to stick those twigs on top. There are a couple of variations that I will use with the V-lathe from time to time, depending on what the weather's doing. If it was really windy, so imagine I didn't have the V here at all, I'm just lighting a fire on my little raft, my platform, and it's blowing a hoolie. I put my tinder down, go to get my fire steel, turn back, and my tinder is blown halfway across the forest floor. So even like this, the V is going to stop that happening. It's going to stop our tinder from blowing away. So there's a big advantage there in that alone. Now imagine I've got a pot suspended over my fire, and maybe boiling some water, that kind of thing. And again, it's really windy day, my fire's lit there, pot directly above it. I could go away for 10 minutes and find that my fire is blown across the ground and it's no longer underneath the pot. So under those circumstances, what I would probably do is make the V from green wood. So green wood not going to burn particularly quickly, and what that's going to do is keep our fire in the same place. Stop it, it's going to stop it from blowing across the ground. Another alternative I do from time to time, if it's really wet, instead of making this V from these kind of sticks, this sort of size, I would make the V from two bundles of that really, really fine sort of matchstick thickness twigs, and that's going to kind of become part of the fire that much quicker. So that's going to ignite, or once the tinder is lit, the V itself will ignite quite quickly. Still the two bundles straight on top, but that's going to generate more heat and ensure that the next layer of fuel that we go on similarly ignites. So I hope that's going to be useful for you guys. This was a game changer for me when I came across the V-lay about 13-14 years ago. This was shown to me. I've never lit a fire any other way since that day. I always go straight to the V-lay, and I light fires here and other places all year round in all kinds of different weather conditions, and it works. That's why I do it all the time. So as I say, hopefully this is something you can emulate, guys. We are hoping to get more content out on our YouTube channel next week. If you haven't yet subscribed, then please do so. In the meantime, stay safe.